They used to blindfold me and handcuff me 24/7. In the midnight, they would handcuff me from the back so I can't even sleep properly. They won't tell me where I was detained. They won't tell me what day it was. They won't tell me what time it was.
But why they were so vindictive to you?
I was an open critic of the then fascistic regime.
What was your feeling at that time?
My wife is 27. A 27-year-old woman had to live in uncertainty for 8 years, not knowing whether his husband is alive or not.
Do you think that you also need to take a revenge against AwamiLeague? Mir Ahmed bin Quasem Arman, a practicing barrister at the Bangladesh Supreme Court, was reportedly abducted by state security forces on the night of August 9, 2016. He became one of the many victims of enforced disappearances during Sheikh Hasina's authoritarian regime. At the time, his father, a prominent businessman and social entrepreneur, had been convicted by the International Crimes Tribunal in Dhaka for crimes against humanity committed during the 1971 Liberation War. Arman had publicly criticized the tribunal's legal flaws and its political use by the Hasina government. His outspoken writings drew international attention and timely making him a target. After enduring 8 years of severe torture in a secret detention center known as Aynaghor, the Glass House, Arman was released on August 6, 2024, a day after Hasina's dictatorship fall in a bloody revolution. In this exclusive interview with Delta Voice, Arman shares his story and reflections. Thank you very much for your time. We know that you have had a very bitter experience during the Sheikh Hasina regime, and as a barrister of the country's Supreme Court, did you ever imagine that you would face such kind of bitter experiences in this country?
After my graduation, I had the opportunity to build a career in UK, but I decided to come back to give something back to the people, to the people of my country. I chose the legal fields to help them get their rights back. I prided myself as a human rights activist. At the same time, I was defending a number of key political figures did an standing trial in the International Crimes Tribunal. One of the things I was doing was to make sure what happens in the court gets out. After each court day, I will post my experience in the court, how it is violation of the law, how it is against the Constitution of Bangladesh, how it is violation of the international law.
You were detained by the persons who identified themselves as the part of law enforcers. But did they explain for you at that time why you were captured by them?
When they appeared at my doorstep dead at night, armed and in plain clothes, I demanded them to show me the warrant of arrest against me, or put the charges, what are the charges that they're trying to detain me. They said that those rules does not apply to them. When I tried to argue with them, they forcibly dragged me out of my home in front of my wife and my 2 daughters, who were toddlers at the time, and was forced into a car, blindfolded, handcuffed, and thrown into a dark room where I stayed for 8 long years. From inside the cell, I couldn't tell whether it is day or night outside. They won't tell me where I was detained. They won't tell me what day it was. They won't tell me what time it was. I had to guess time from the food when this is served. If it is bread and vegetable, it means it's breakfast, and which means day outside. The meal afterward, it means midday. The meal afterward, it means night. From meal, I had to guess what time of the day it is. And of all the months of the year, only they used to tell me when it was Ramadan. So whenever I used to hear Ramadan, I used to realize that I've ended up spending a year in the dark cell. And I ended up spending 8 Ramadan, 17 Eids, away from isolated from my family. It felt like I was buried alive. To me, it felt like worse than death. They used to blindfold me and handcuff me 24/7. In the midnight, they will handcuff me from the back, so I can't even sleep properly. I begged them for a watch so that at least I can perform 5-time prayers in time, but they won't give me.
At that time, when you were detained, you didn't have any political, even strong political identity. But why they were so vindictive to you?
I was an open critic of the then fascistic regime. The biggest threat to a autocracy is voice of criticism. Voices will expose their activities to the world. I went to a private school which followed British curriculum, and I used to make the posts in English. And within a very short span of time, my social media post attracted audience globally. International press like Washington Post, New York Times, The Guardian, and international human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, they all followed my posts very closely. And the allegations that I was making there, the criticism that I was making there, they used to take it and put it to the government, saying that that lawyer is putting this criticism about this trial process. What's your response to it? The truth is, the autocratic regime did not have any response because they didn't want a fair trial to take place. They wanted a short trial, they wanted a sham, they wanted a kangaroo court.
Widely known as Glass House or Aynaghor, where you spent almost 8 years, and that was a nightmare for you, so far I understand. So what was your feeling at that time?
I was defending my father's case at the time. I was his lawyer. The trial court convicted him and given a death sentence, and appeal was ongoing. In that moment, I was abducted. I didn't even know what happened to my father. Is he alive or he was executed? I didn't know where he was buried. My father's last wish that I lead the funeral prayer, the janaza prayer. I didn't know anything about that. I was really worried about my family, particularly them not knowing whether their father is dead or alive. I had 2 daughters who had to go to bed not knowing whether their father is dead or alive. When I was abducted, I was 32 years old. My wife is 27. A 27-year-old woman had to live in uncertainty for 8 years, not knowing whether his husband is alive or not. After my abduction, my father was executed just days after my abduction. My mother had to go run around the country looking for me. When they went to the police, they went to the other security forces. She tried to contact the Prime Minister's office, the President's office, just to find out whether I'm alive or not. But she couldn't find an answer. They had to wait in uncertainty. Every time they will receive a call from an unknown number, they felt like there's news about my son, but there was none. It took me a revolution, a toppling of the regime for me to get out of that house of mirror they used to call the Aynaghor prison, secret prison where the detainees were systematically subject to degrading and inhuman treatment designed to give them a worse than death experience.
How you passed your time?
It was very difficult. 24-hour felt like an eternity. Only reason I think I could put my head above the water is because of my spirituality. I'm a believer, and I believe this life is not the end. There is a life afterwards, and whatever I'm having to suffer will be rewarded in hereafter. So that spirituality helped me keep alive, and I tried to get whatever time I got in spiritual activities, in ibadah, in reciting Quran, whatever I memorize, praying, doing dhikr, trying to utilize the time, because the only thing which you will never get back is the time. And I told myself it's an opportunity for me to build my reward in akhirah. The more I spend in remembrance of Allah, I will be rewarded.
Did you think that once you would be able to free?
I gave up hope of coming out alive. I came to accept my fate that I will be killed or I will die out of trauma here.
So you were hopeful about the next life, but you lost all hope about this life, and you thought that you might be killed.
Every night I will prepare myself that if I should be prepared, this night might be the night when I will be executed. They will not tell me ahead that your execution is tomorrow or day after tomorrow. They'll just drag me out and kill me. So every night for 8 years.
Why did you think this, that you may be executed anytime rather than you would be free?
I knew that as a human rights activist that they were abducting opposition figures and executing them secretly. Before my abduction, almost hundreds of cases were reported who were never found and presumed to be dead. So I thought that is exactly what is going to happen to me.
You thought you might be killed and you don't know about your family members with 2 daughters.
I used to tell to myself that I will never see my loved one again in this life. I used to pray to my God, to Allah, that please unite me with them in Jannah. That's how I used to, find solace in that feeling, in that thought. And the night they were dragging me out, I thought I was going to be executed. I started reciting verses of the Quran and reading myself that I will hear a gunshot and that will be it.
There was huge change across the whole country. The regime was fallen, but you didn't know anything, but suddenly found that you were free in a very disastrous condition. What was your mentality at that time?
When they dropped me, I was blindfolded. So I was waiting for the gunshot, that I would hear a gunshot and that will be it. But that gunshot never came. I slowly undid my blindfold and found myself in an open field and there was no one around. So I saw a source of light in the horizon and I walked toward the right and I found out that it's a construction site and it said the location of the city was written Diyabari Uttara, which is the northern side of Dhaka. At that moment I did not know that there has been a revolution. I thought there has been some international pressure and I was released. So I was afraid to tell my identity. I told them I need to go to my family. How do I go there? So they helped me to a nearby hospital, which was founded by my father. But the hospital guard won't let me in because I lost almost 2/3 of my body weight. And I was in dirty clothes, torn shirt, dirty lungi. So they won't let me in. I had to wait in the street for hours before someone finally recognized me. And then I found out that it took a bloody revolution. Thousands of young teenagers had to die for a revolution to take place, and only after then I was released.
There are many such incidents that after pushing out of the car, then from behind they shoot and people are killed. So you were fully prepared at that time that any time shoot may come and you may die.
I was, as I said, when they dragged me out of the car.
So it's a dangerous feeling at that time.
It is a feeling that I won't even hope it for my worst enemy. That feeling of seeing death with your own eyes. I was ready that a gunshot will come and that will be it. But I'm the lucky one who made it out alive. Hundreds of the enforced disappearance victims did not make it out. No one knows whether they're alive. The family are still looking for answers. All they want to know, if he was executed, where were they executed? What happened to the body of the loved ones? But there is no answer.
Sheikh Hasina actually returned to this country for revenge. And even it's already recorded in some documents. As a human being, do you feel that you have lost your 8 years in a disastrous way? And you feel that you also need to take a revenge against AwamiLeague?
No, I am a believer. I believe in hereafter, and I believe whatever happened to me for the last 8 years, I will be rewarded in hereafter. So I don't want revenge, but I want to make sure what happened to me or what happened in the last 16 years never repeats itself. For that, I want justice. I want justice for those who are involved. I want compensation and rehabilitation for the victims, and we want to make sure we pass laws and awareness program so that such heinous crimes against humanity is never repeated, not in Bangladesh or in the region or anywhere in the world.
Why have you involved in politics?
I believe Allah has given me a second life. I owe my duty to those who did not make it out alive. My involvement to the politics is a rebellion against fascism. Fascists targeted me and thought this will create an atmosphere of fear, and people will never be too afraid to ask for a free and fair election. My return to politics is a slap in the face of those people who wanted to use violence to eradicate competition from the political field. My participation in the politics is a rebellion against fascism and all form of use of violence.
Your father was one of the central leaders of this party, and he was convicted in a controversial court proceeding at that time during the Sheikh Hasina regime. But same political party you are now doing and you are participating, do you think that it will create controversy and it is tough or challenging for you to explain it before the people?
Overwhelming majority of the people who are running in this ticket are young people. People who were born after the War of Independence. People who have a vision. People who wants to change. People who are free of corruption, who are transparent, highly educated, and have an idea how to reform the society. And that's why I decided to run from this party, because I see that they want to change the system, how it's working. Status quo only benefits the corrupt, people with black money, people with muscle power. We want to change it and make it a level playing field. So anyone with an idea, anyone with a quality and ability to contribute can take part in politics. My party is free of dynasty. You don't have to be born in a politically important family. You don't have to have money. All you have to have is dedication, sincerity, and loyalty. If you can demonstrate these three qualities, you can rise up the ladder. And I believe parties like Jamaat Islami gives opportunity to the people in the grassroots to take part in the politics and make a difference in the future of Bangladesh.
Still now, we see huge propaganda against this party, that this party doesn't hold the spirit of the independence. And still now, also there is propaganda, and AwamiLeague during its regime used it as a trump card. So it's a challenge, and the generation may be misguided again through propaganda. So don't you feel that?
No, I believe the young generation wants those who will talk about future, not past. Small minds talks about people and their criticism. Medium mind talks about problem, and big mind talks about ideas. Jamaat is about new idea. Jamaat is about future. And I believe the young generation likes that about Jamaat. And they will support Jamaat in the upcoming election because they have a well set out plan about future, and they're the party who are not living in the past but looking forward in the future. And that's why we're attracting a lot of young voters. That's why we see landslide victories in all the public universities, and I believe this will be reflected in the general elections too.
What's your main message to the people?
We want this revolution, this loss of hundreds of innocent lives was not just for one election. They wanted a new Bangladesh. They wanted a new system. They wanted new leadership. We urge the younger generation of Bangladesh to look forward, look ahead, look into the qualities of the candidate, and say no to corruption, say no to use of violence in politics, say no to black money and use of trying to use money to buy votes. Choose people with character, choose people with idea, choose people who have respect in the society.
Money laundering is a great problem of this country. So you are telling people that Jamaat Islami is a party that you can rely and you can trust, and Jamaat is not involved in any corruption, money laundering, or use of muscle that we the people saw during the regime of AwamiLeague. So you are hopeful that these messages to the people will support you in the upcoming election.
I'm taking part in the campaigns. I'm getting huge response from the female voters. Highest response I'm getting from the women in the society. It is surprising. They all come to me and say that we will support you because we want change. Second most highest response we're getting from the youth, who wants people who talks about future, not about past. And lastly, we have support from the working class people who believe they're being deprived, and they want people with God-fearing people to help them get back their right.
But now AwamiLeague is banned, and this party that has been branded by the young generation as fascist ruling, but with the huge blood of youth. That party lost its power and Sheikh Hasina fled to India. But now you are competing with the party that was also the part of that revolution. Don't you think that it's a big challenge for you at this moment, that you are now competing with a party that was your friend just a few days back?
I don't think so. I think this will be an example of how you can be friends but also be competitors against each other. Running in election against each other does not mean you have to be enemy. Running in competing in politics does not mean that you have to attack each other personally. We can compete against each other and still be friends. We can compete against each other, still work together for a new Bangladesh. I think this competition between the July forces is a new trend which will give rise to a new era of clean, healthy and constructive politics in Bangladesh.
What's your main commitment to the people if you're elected?
Transparency. There will be transparency in government spending. There will be transparency how representative people spends the government fund. There will be transparency about how people gets appointed in the government offices. There will be transparency in appointment in people in law enforcement agency, in military and bureaucracy. Transparency is our main commitment here.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.